Yeah, hey, this shit easy, nigga. Hey, all I'm talking about, nigga, I'm still out here trying to get it.
Contender Regime Boxing, checking back in with y'all, man. What's good? So I wanted to do a quick recap on Frank Martin versus Artem Harutyan, which was a title eliminator for the WBC. Artem actually came in as the WBC International Champion. Guy was undefeated, Olympic background, not a lot of film on him, so people really didn't know much about him. I didn't know much about him. Like I told y'all, I was able to scour the internet and find a couple of fights. I ended up watching about a fight and a half of them. Most notably the fight that he had versus Molina, which was a pretty good performance. And I don't know how much Frank Martin and Earl and the matchmakers, how much they knew about this guy, but it was a very competitive fight, a fight that was more competitive than I thought it was going to be, that most of us thought it was going to be, because again, it's one of those situations where we have, a guy that we know that we, have come to expect a certain level of performance from, and then you have a guy that's coming in that we know nothing about. You can look at his record and say, okay, he's undefeated, 12 wins, 7 knockouts. He's obviously worked himself up to get to a level in the sanctioning body's rankings to be able to compete in a title eliminator to become a champion. Dude never fought in the U.S. before. So we can look on paper and say, okay, this is what we know, but it's very little information there. So we going in thinking that this fight is going to be, just Frank Martin putting on another spectacular performance, coming off of the biggest win in his career versus Michel Rivera, who was a very skilled fighter, highly touted, also undefeated. You know what I'm saying? So who was a bigger guy than Artem. And Frank Martin dominated him. You know what I'm saying? Knocked him down, gave him so many different angles, looked phenomenal. And he was very coachable in that fight, with Derrick James giving him precise instruction and him going out there and executing that. This fight, it was totally different. First and foremost, let me give kudos to Artem for showing up and being ready. Artem was very fucking sharp. He was a very good counterpuncher when he wanted to counter. And then also when Frank Martin had his hands in his pockets and not throwing punches like he should have been, like Derrick James was getting on his ass, telling him, let your hands go. Asking him, like, give me one reason why you not being more active. Tell me one reason why you not letting your hands go. And Frank Martin said, I'm just not doing it, which was the facts, the truth. Another reason, though, was Artem was fucking sharp. So he was a really good counterpuncher when he wanted to counter. And then when Frank Martin had his hands in his pocket, Artem did not mind being first. He did not mind throwing that sweeping overhand right to the head. He did not mind throwing that right hand to the body. He did not mind letting that left hook go. And he had very good foot positioning. This guy was very experienced and surprisingly skilled, more skilled than I thought he was going to be. He knew what the fuck he was doing in there. Very good foot positioning. Didn't really allow Frank Martin to get comfortable with his foot positioning. Kept his lead foot on the outside of Frank Martin's. And, he was circling and making it very difficult for Frank Martin to really set shit up, right? And when Frank Martin did actually decide to throw punches, he was effective. Now, of course, you got big shit coming back from Artem whenever Frank Martin does let his hands go and kind of open himself up. I think Frank felt a couple of those shots and understood that if I'm not careful, this guy could catch me with something sharp and clean, and it could be bad. He did catch Frank Martin with a right hand to the body that definitely got Frank Martin's attention. But I think this fight was a learning experience for Frank Martin. He ended up getting a victory in a unanimous decision. You know, made Artem take a knee, hurt his eye real bad. What's up with what's up with Earl Spence and Frank Martin and these Derrick James fighters hurting people's eyes? It looked like the dude orbital bone was fucked up, because for you to take a knee after getting hit in your eye like that, the same reaction that Kell Brook had when Earl hurt his eye, the same reaction that Ugas had. He didn't take no knee, but you could tell when he got hit in that eye, he started backing up like, God damn, motherfucker, don't hit me no more. You know what I'm saying? That's the same energy that I got from Artem with his eye. So you could tell that Frank Martin's punches were having an effect on Artem when he did decide to throw. A learning experience for Frank Martin. You fought an experienced guy who has some skill, you know, who didn't go into the fight afraid of you and giving you so much respect. Artem actually came to win. Yeah, you know, at the end of the fight, he talking about, you know, Earl's, you know, he said, Frank Martin, he ain't no Earl Spence. He said, Earl Spence, this is my idol. You know what I'm saying? This is my idol. He was happy to be there, showed up, you know, he was, you know, just happy to fight in the U.S. This was his dream, to fight in Vegas. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, he had that energy like, I'm just happy to be here, but he wasn't in there like, I'm just happy to be in the ring with Frank. No, he wanted to whoop Frank ass. You know what I'm saying? But so, like I said, a learning experience for Frank Martin. What we learned about Frank Martin in this fight is that he, you know, of course, he got some sharpening up to do. I think he needs to continue to strive to get in there with the top guys. This, again, was a title eliminator. Your next fight, if it's an opportunity to fight a Shakur Stevenson, to position yourself to fight for the title, or if it's a shot against Devin Haney, of course we know Devin Haney most likely moving up, so he's aligning himself with a guy like a Shakur Stevenson in the WBC. So if that is the case, you don't regress, you don't take a step back, you go towards that. But Frank Martin has learned about himself, and we have learned that he got some more sharpening up to do. Styles make fights. Not every fight is gonna look the same. Just like with Jerron Boots Ennis and his fight versus Karen, he didn't look phenomenal. And went out there in his next fight versus Villa, a guy who stylistically just looks better in the ring with him. You see what happened. So, Frank Martin, I think this was similar to Jermell Charlo in his first fight versus Brian Castano. Derrick James giving you concise instruction, telling you exactly what you need to do, and motherfuckers just not doing it. That's the shit that's the energy that I got from Frank Martin. I don't know what it was. He said that his timing was off. He said that his reaction time just wasn't there. He was very honest about his performance. He didn't really make no excuses. You know what I'm saying? He just said, look, hey, my reaction time, it wasn't really there. You know, every fight not gonna look the same, and I agree with that. But at the same time, you gotta listen to your coach, because every time he went out there and did what Derrick James said do, he pushed Artem back. He hurt the guy. He was causing damage. You look at Frank Martin's face, he didn't have no scratches, no bruises, no nothing on his face. You look at Artem shit, he was beat up. And that was a small sample size of what Frank Martin can actually offer when he let his hands go. We saw a little bit of this in the Jackson Marinez fight. Derrick James had to get on his ass in that fight like, hey, bro, hey, it's time for you to sit down now. Sit down on your punches. Hey, ain't no moving back. This guy got all this long-ass reach. You got to go to him. You feel me? You got to go to him. And that's going to be a common thing with Frank Martin because he don't have very long arm reach. So he can't afford to just sit back and wait on the perfect shot. That's what I thought. I thought he was just sitting back waiting on the perfect knockout shot. You know what I'm saying? Like on some Tank Davis shit. You not Tank Davis. You got a whole different skill set. You not Tank. You know what I'm saying? You got power, you got speed, you got explosiveness, but you not Tank Davis. You got your own skill set, and it's phenomenal, and it works for you. You got to be more active. Fight behind that jab. You know, stay focused with your foot positioning. Make sure you're using that jab to the head, to the body to set up your shots. And stay active. Let your punches go. You in great shape. So I don't know why you worried about getting tired. Frank Martin had everything he needed to go out there and be dominant in that fight, but he just did not put forth that effort. When he did, though, in those last few rounds, you saw how dominant he was. Imagine if he would have did that early on in the fight and the guy take a knee, he'd have got him up out of there. That's what I learned about Frank Martin. He just, you got to stay disciplined and stay focused. He needs just a little bit more sharpening. I think this was a good opportunity for him to see what happens when you don't listen to your coach. And it's a learning experience for him. Frank Martin is still a very good talent and somebody and a force to be reckoned with in that division. And I think as he continues to mature as a fighter, as he continues to gain more experience, fight on a championship level, you will see Frank Martin rise to the occasion and put on those performances that we have come to expect from him. So y'all let me know what y'all think down in the comments. How did y'all feel about Frank Martin's performance versus Artem? What do you think is next for Frank Martin? Do you think he's ready for the top guys? Do you think he needs some more, step up fights to kind of position himself and get him, in that mode to compete at the elite level? Y'all let me know what y'all think. Contender Regime Boxing. I'll holla at y'all boys, man.